Hello and welcome back to everyone that's tuned into our channel, the American Ultra Stock. Here we are again. Brenden and I, you already know the background behind Brenden. It's time for Stock Watch, the segment where we analyze and review the players who did well over the weekend or not and got a stock up or down. Without further ado, Brenden, who's the first player who caught your eye and gets a stock up?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see the kit I'm wearing, but finally, for the first time, I'm going to get to pick Brenden Aaronson for stock up. He finally scored his first Bundesliga goal, and it was a crucial one for Union Berlin. A late winner in the 84th minute, coming off the bench, making an impact as he always does as a super sub. And it's a huge for Union Berlin. They're now 9 points clear of the relegation zone. They look to be safe. Who knows, maybe they can even fight, push up the table for a European spot. Hopefully they don't, just for their sake, so they can get back on track in the league next season. We don't know if Brenden will be staying in Berlin next season. They do have an option to buy. I think Leeds would definitely be more than happy to sell based on how his time there went. So who knows? I mean, I think he could be available for cheap. And I think an underrated implication of this goal is that Pellegrino Matarazzo, the American manager from Hoffenheim, might be getting sacked because of it. He's on thin ice in the hot seat, and that loss at home to a struggling Union Berlin team isn't going to help at all.
Absolutely, and I think I highlighted a few weeks ago that Matarazzo was on a really bad streak, and it comes. This really is the final blow, perhaps. Really, I don't see a way where Hoffenheim keeps him after the end of the season. Whether he'll get sacked right now or not, we'll see. But it is thanks to Aronson's goal, a nice one. I'm sure that you're happy to be able to pick him. It's nice to see him. What if he goes on a run at this end of the season? A little bit of extra confidence is just what he needed. And a guy that is flying in confidence at the moment is Griffin Yao. We picked him a few weeks ago, and it's so nice to see a guy that didn't really cut it at MLS level, found a solution to go away and do it the hard way. Really had to work, play for the reserves, and now he is the best player, let's say, for Westerlo. It's fair to say. I think that watching that game, I do think he's the best player on the pitch, the one that tries to make things actively happen the most, and it's so nice to see. Plays really well as a winger, but cuts inside really well as well. I like that he's not selfish with the ball. He does pass it a lot, but also is not afraid of taking on players, and scored a banger, an absolute banger. I'm pretty sure everybody has watched it already, and props to him. I think that he has definitely carved a spot for himself in that roster for the Olympics, so definitely have to pick him. Now, on the sour note, the first one that gets a stock down for you, Brayden, who is it and why?
Yeah, my first one isn't performance related at all. It's going to be Jalen Neal, one of our highest rated, at least from U.S. soccer's perspective. The young center backs, there's not a lot of options there, so we really need Jalen Neal to come good. But unfortunately, his long-term injury that had him out for most of last season just keeps getting extended. There was another setback, and he's now going to be out for another 2 months. And with the MLS season just around the corner, it's going to be starting this week. It's not ideal, especially for Galaxy, who have brought in a lot of good signings in January. They're going to be looking to push up from a disappointing season last season. They're such an ambitious club, a big club looking to contend for a playoff spot and maybe even MLS Cup as well. So to start the season without one of their starting center backs, and especially one who's rated as highly as Jalen Neal, a top prospect, it's going to be a blow for him and for the club as well. And who knows, with this injury, we could potentially see him miss out on the Olympics this summer just due to not having enough game time, which would be very unfortunate for the player because it's a huge opportunity for him. There's not a lot of alternative options. I think if he was healthy enough for the season before the Olympics, I think he would get a spot, but now it's in doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking shaky for that call up. I agree with you. And I think it would be nice to watch him play for a Galaxy with a good Galaxy team, which wasn't the case last year at all. But I'm picking my first one, another Olympic eligible player, Johan Gomez. I have a thing for watching the second Bundesliga because partially I hate on St. Pauli, but they're going to go up. And he played against the best team, St. Pauli, this week, and he really ghosted. It's fair to say, I don't know, he seemed very shy, and it just showed me that he's very, not one-dimensional, but he can't really play the pivot, holding the ball up. It's not really his style. Granted, he was playing the best team in the league, but I think it was too much too soon for him. He's definitely not ready for that level as well, which St. Pauli could arguably be Bundesliga and nearing there. I mean, they are top of the second division, but it shows that our striking position, striking depth right there for the Olympics is really up for grabs. We've seen him get called up and do relatively well. this year, but it was definitely a stock down. I was looking forward to this game to see if he could impress against the best that there is in his league, and unfortunately it didn't happen, so I have to pick him. Now, who's your player that gets a stock up now, Brenden?
Yeah, I think it has to be taken into consideration as well that Johan Gomez signed for Braunschweig from a team that was going to be playing in the fourth division this season. So I think he's just not ready for the level yet. It's unfortunate that he is a striker for our Olympic team, honestly, because I think it shows a clear weakness of that position. But on a more positive note, talking about strikers, my next stock up is going to be Josh Sargent. And he could feature on this segment every week, it seems. He just keeps scoring. No one can stop him in the championship. It's clear he's way too good for the level. I mean, there's not enough good things to say about this guy. He's such a good player. He's scored 2 goals against Ethan Horvath. One of them probably was Horvath's fault, so a bit unfortunate to see from potential USMNT goalkeeper there. But Sargent continues his run of form. He's got now 10 championship goals in only 13 games, which is incredible, especially considering that he missed a lot of time due to injury, which usually can set some players back, but it hasn't seemed to affect Sargent at all. And who knows, honestly, I firmly believe if he hadn't had that injury, he'd be beyond clear at the top of the Golden Boot race. And honestly, he's only, I think, 6 or 7 goals behind. It's still possible for him to win it. And if he did win it, missing that many games would just show how good of a player he is, a huge accomplishment for him. And I hope he's in the Nations League roster.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see him back in contention for a call-up with being undeniable as well. I think everyone has come to terms that he earned it at this point for his recent run of form. And I'm picking a player that it's definitely not. It goes against the narrative right here. I don't think he had a good game, but I'm picking him because of the rumors that I see. Then I think they are reputable rumors. I'm picking Joe Scally. First of all, the club that he's at, Mönchengladbach, I think they're going down south. I don't think they're going to get relegated, but the trajectory is not looking good for the future. And the fact that he changed his agents, not officially yet, but he is in the market for a new agent. Hint, hint, we probably know it's going to be with Gio Reyna's new agent as well. And the fact that he has active rumors from multiple clubs in top 5 leagues to sign him, I think is definitely a stock up in that perspective, because I think the time at Mönchengladbach, regardless, even if they finish mid-season, it's about to be done already. I think it's time for him to experience a new cycle, prove himself, push Dest even more. And yeah, I'm picking him just because I think that change of scenery that is likely going to happen, regardless of club form now, that he's looking for a new agent, is definitely welcome. He was the first one to be subbed. It always seems like the trend nowadays for him at Mönchengladbach. So I'm picking him. It could be a down, but I'm picking as a stock up because I think that things will change going forward, and that's ultimately the best for him.
I'm not sure where these rumors really came from, honestly, because he hasn't had that good of a season for Gladbach, but he is still a young player, still just 21 years old, and he has a bright future, clearly. I mean, he's been playing at this level for several years now, and he is still so young. Kind of a similar situation to his best friend, Gio Reyna, like you said. So hopefully he can get a better move in the summer. But moving on to a more sour note, my second stock down is absolutely heartbreaking, Taylor Booth. Picking up an injury after 5 goals in 2 games. And he had an injury earlier in the season as well that hindered his form. He was out for a while, and then when he came back, he just wasn't the same player. He was finally getting back into form, scored a hat-trick against his brother Zach and Volendam, then scored a brace in the next game as well. But then this weekend getting subbed off early due to injury. It's just, like I said, heartbreaking for the player who was supposed to be probably our star at the Olympics. I don't know if he had done enough to make it to the Copa America or the Nations League just yet. Just he hadn't really had that good of a season before those 2 good games. But he was supposed to be one of the best players in the Olympics. He's been with the Olympics team for the whole cycle, and he's always shown out despite battling injuries the whole season. It's just so heartbreaking. Like I said, I can't emphasize it enough. It's just another setback, and his trajectory was so high. But hopefully he can come back from injury. It should be pretty soon. It's not going to be as bad as the other one because it was a contact injury, so he'll probably be out for a couple of weeks, and hopefully he can finish out the season strong and still make a push for the Olympic roster.
Yeah, I think he'd be really important at the Olympic level. I think that's where he would find his level and really come to be one of the main guys in the team. But yeah, it is heartbreaking. I'm picking a player that's also being picked not based on performance, but based on injury. I'm sorry, Brenden, I'm picking Christopher Lund because I'm an avid watcher of Palermo. He hasn't played because he has his light knock. They said that official is because it's a little bit overwhelming with all of the matches. He does play a lot. But the guy that played in his spot, Colombo, I believe, wow, what a game he had for Palermo. I thought it was an amazing match by him. I don't know about the rating, but he is Italian. You know, there's always Italian bias for Italian clubs, especially smaller ones. He's from Palermo. So I don't know. He's a 23-year-old. I don't think that he's really going to push Lund out of the spot. But ultimately, I think that Palermo could have done better if Lund was playing as well. I know they won 1-0, but I do think that they missed a little bit. And the fact that he's not going to be playing is not really going to do them any favors. And I don't know. I'm rooting against Palermo as well, so because we're fighting for the spots to go up. But I do think it's a stock down because he's going to be out of action for a little while. I thought he was going to be back ready for this game, and his backup played well. All in all together, I think that Palermo are looking kind of sus. So I'm going to have to pick Lund there. Now, moving on to the final player who impressed you and gets the stock up.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge win, a 3-0 actually over promotion rivals Como. So maybe I'm still backing Lund to keep his spot. I think he's been better than Aurelio all season. But moving on to my final stock up, and it has to be Captain America, Christian Pulisic, saving Milan kind of off the bench, getting a beautiful assist, a deft little flick with his head to Giroud, who finished brilliantly as well. And then what a thunderbolt on his weaker left foot. He got the ball back after a failed cross and stuck with the play, finished beautifully to tie the game. But then Milan just sums up their season. They just collapsed in stoppage time, ended up losing 4-2 after Pulisic helped them get back from down 2-0 to 2-2. So at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. But only one half, Pulisic, a goal and an assist, making some of the team of the weeks in Serie A, despite only playing 45 minutes. It just shows the quality that he has. He is one of Milan's most important players. And when they did rest him and a couple of other key players as well, they really struggled.
Yeah, I think that Milan's season is very underwhelming. It would be nice if they were in sync with what Puli's season has been so far. And that, yeah, it's sad. It definitely hinders his revival and definitely mark for a comeback season, but he's doing well. It's nice to see. He had been a little quiet lately. Now, my last player that I'm picking on stock up, it's another player that I know he's not Olympic eligible, but he's going to get called up to the Olympic team. I'll definitely appreciate it if he did. Mark McKenzie, I thought that he played really well. I caught 38 minutes of the game. It was 3-1, but I never really watched him. I watched him and I was impressed with how fast he was recovering, really, really fast. I mean, I think that he's the fastest center back we have after watching Team Marine this season. Granted, it's a different level. It was such a contrast that I'm really impressed. I have to pick him on a stock up. I know that it's difficult to watch him because it is the Belgian Pro League. It's almost impossible to watch. But I think that he gets a stock up because that spot, again, for center backs, I think it is really in the open. I don't know if he's going to be called up for Copa America, but I think that he makes the list of if somebody gets injured, he's the next one in line. And with performances like this, I understand that. And yeah, I'm picking him for a stock up. Now, who's your next pick?
Yeah, my final stock down is going to be a weekly occurrence. The new Georgi Mihailovic is going to be following Balogun. I'm just picking him because I know it may have seemed like Yuri had a bit of an agenda against him, but I can assure you is for good reason. He just continues to drop sinker after sinker. He doesn't seem to be fitting in with the Monaco team well, and all of the good signs we saw at Stade de Reims last season are gone. He seems to be a one-season wonder. I think we were very quick to forget that at Middlesbrough the season before that, he did struggle a little bit. He wasn't the most effective there in the championship. I'm not sure what happened at Reims. Maybe it was the manager, Will Still, who had a lot of hype last season that really got him to his best. But regardless, he needs to get back into form quickly because with the emergence of Sargent and with Pepe continuing to score despite having limited minutes, there is a real possibility that Balogun could be ousted from the starting spot, if not the roster entirely, for the Nations League and the Copa America. I do still think he'll be at both because he is the high-profile dual national recruit that was hyped so much, and he has scored a couple goals for the U.S., but honestly, I think Sargent's in better form. I think Pepe's even in better form. We have some other strikers as well, but they're not at the level. But honestly, when you compare the whole pool, Balogun's probably having the worst season out of all of our strikers. So I think he really needs to pick it up soon if he wants to start in the big games for us.
Absolutely, and I know that you have to basically kill someone on the pitch for somebody to criticize him. I mean, our fan base loves him without even watching, but I completely agree with you. It's sad to see him. We were really quick to jump on the hype, and now he's untouchable in the starting lineup for a lot of people. When in fact he is dropping stinker after stinker, and we'll see. I agree with you. I think that Sargent would be ahead of him at this very moment if we were to play a big country tomorrow. But regardless, my last pick is for a guy that doesn't really see the pitch that much. He does eventually, occasionally, here and there. I'm picking Tim Weah just because I think that I can just name him Mr. Sideways, Mr. Backwards. That's how he plays these days. That's what he does. You watch Weah, it's so frustrating. He gets the ball a lot, and he gets into good positions a lot. When crosses do go over, and he is fast. We know Weah, he's fast. Instead of pursuing a cross or trying to take on a player, it's always sideways. There was a play where he got some garbage time this time around, but it was towards the end of the game, and he just ran back with the ball, dribbling the ball about 15 yards back, and then passed it sideways. I mean, what's the point of that if you're playing? Let's be honest. As a U.S. men's national team player, he's viewed as a winger. When he gets the ball into those positions, he should do something with the ball instead of just being a right back and passing it sideways. So very confusing season for him. Confusing move after all. I think hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it was confusing now if we really analyze it. And yeah, I don't know how to evaluate his season other than just saying it's a pure stock down, really. But moving on to the players that we'll be watching this week, keeping a close eye on. Who are your picks? The big pick that everybody knows and one that's not so famous.
So my mainstream pick is someone who I could have picked for stock down as well this week, and I think it's going to be a very interesting situation to watch this week. I'm going for Gio Reyna. We mentioned him a little bit earlier when we were talking about Scally switching his agent, moving to Nottingham Forest, but it just hasn't worked out as we would have hoped. It is still early. They've only played 3 games since he got there, but he was an unused substitute against West Ham, and it seems to be getting to the same situation as Dortmund, where they only bring him on late in the game if they need a goal, which was the case against Bournemouth. It was the case against Newcastle, and he was pretty good in both of those cameos, but against West Ham, they were up 2-0. As we said, Nottingham Forest played a great game, and they didn't seem to need Reyna at all. Obviously, he wasn't brought onto the pitch at all, even as a sub late on. And honestly, I think it's just kind of indicative of his season at this point. He was at Dortmund, he couldn't get any minutes. Now he's at Forest, he couldn't get any minutes. They have a huge game against Aston Villa coming up, one of the best teams in the league this season. And the good news is they probably will be trailing, so maybe Reyna will get some minutes, because that seems to be the only situation where he does come on. But he needs to show something quickly to the manager. I mean, I don't know what more he can do. He just needs to get a goal or an assist or something to really warrant more playing time, because it's becoming a lost season for him. Oh, and also, I forgot to mention, almost forgot, my sleeper pick, Brian Ako, finally back from a very long-term injury, the Salzburg player. He's now playing for their backup team, Liefering, while he gets back to full fitness. And in his first game back from injury, a goal and an assist from center back, and a win as well. So it's a really encouraging performance, I think, especially from a center back to really influence the game that much on the defensive side and the attacking side as well. He's still one to watch for the future. Like we've mentioned so many times on the channel, our center back depth for now and for the future is really worrying, honestly. That and goalkeeper are the main deficits in our roster. So if players like Brian Ako, Kik Pierre, the dual nationals, can come good and we can recruit them both, Pierre also scoring this weekend, I think it could be really huge for our future.
Yeah, definitely. I think every center back that has the possibility of playing for the U.S. and is in Europe, we're taking a close look at. But my pick is going to be Johnny. I said it, I don't know if you guys watched it in the video where we talked about prospects of getting trophies, and I thought this Zagreb could surprise Betis. They did. They ended up getting the win. Johnny was really good in that match, though, I will say, even though he really should have scored the chance that he got in the final minute. Really should have. Inside the penalty box, basically. Really should have gotten it. But it's not really his main job. He is a defensive midfielder playing really well there and did so well. What a game he had. But unfortunately, they had that loss, and I think that the only chance for a silverware, well, it is the only chance, is for them. If they somehow pull this through, going to be playing in the Balkans in Croatia. These games really pull a lot of character to try to turn it back around. And I think that Johnny's going to be really important if they do so. I'm hoping that he gets a goal. He's such a good header of the ball, and he had some chances where he was a bit unfortunate not to score. It wasn't his fault. And I'm picking him to score a goal in the second leg. I think they'll get knocked out, but it'll be a 2-2. I see this game, both teams going at it. If you watch the game with Betis and Zagreb, they were both trying to score. It was a very open match. But I feel like now, needing the result, they might have a little bit more of a push, and I hope that he does get his first goal there. For my underground pick, I'm starting about picking Winder, who's going to be playing the Youth Champions League, but he's not really a professional player yet. We know that he has the level and everything, but I won't really count. Nobody watches that, so I'm picking Mendes. The guy's fighting for his life to stay there, and in Portugal is definitely not a mainstream pick. But I think that also coming to the end of his contract, this is a guy that a lot of MLS clubs could take a look at. Has experience in Europe, not a bad player at all. We'll see what happens there. His season is very confusing as well. Sometimes captaining, sometimes being the bench, sometimes not even being on the bench. We'll see what happens. But I hope that he does well this week. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So stay tuned. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. We'll see a lot of you guys. Please leave a comment on what type of content you want to watch in the future. And we'll definitely make amends to accommodate that. And we'll see you next time. Like, share, and subscribe.